Hi, folks. Welcome to the Moving Home Podcast. I'm Jay Norman, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jessie Norman. Just like many of you, Jay and I have both walked through some difficult seasons in our lives.
And we know just how easy it is to get stuck.
We now have 5 beautiful
And crazy.
children, and because of everything we've been through, our home operates on grace.
A concept we didn't fully understand until way later on in life.
Until we actually needed it ourselves. We want to share through stories of love and laughter,
How we were moving on and how big of a game changer grace can be.
in relationship with one another, and how we treat ourselves, and in our case, blending a family.
Something that may just require the largest amount of grace to date.
Preach.
You never know what road life's going to take you on. We have a podcast.
Yes, we do, and we really hope y'all enjoy it.
Hi, babe.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm doing so good.
Seems like it's been a while since we've done this.
It has been a long time.
I know we're getting a little bit out of practice.
Yeah, and we are kind of getting off schedule.
A whole lot off schedule. We were supposed to record.
We need grace.
At least 2 days ago, and I think you for sure had strep throat. I never went in, but probably have had it too, and
Yeah.
had kids sick back and forth, so we both have been sick the last 2 days, so we're running just a little bit behind schedule.
Yeah, we needed to record on Saturday, and I didn't really have a voice or was conscious. I was just in
and we also had 8 basketball games.
medicated stupor.
Yes,
Yeah.
you were a medicated stupor.
We
and
did
busy.
have 8 basketball games on Saturday and 1 on Sunday.
Yeah, so it's been a little while with that part of it, and my voice is a little off too.
You got better without medicine, though.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Impressed with you, more like.
Thank you.
Lily and I ran to the urgent care, which is not as urgent as it used to be. It used to be kind of, I think, taboo to have to go there, but now we go there no matter what is going on because it's just a quick little fee. They're so nice. They know us. It's right down the road, and we get our medicine and go.
Yeah.
So it's
You
nice.
get through it quick.
Yeah,
So farm-wise, we're wet.
I know.
Same old story, different tune, I
It's
guess.
supposed to rain tonight and tomorrow.
Next 2 or 3 days,
I
and
know.
we're wet, and we're about probably 40 days out from wanting to start planting corn, so getting everything ready.
How many
and
days?
Probably 40 days.
We have a bunch of friends that are dealing with snow,
Yeah,
so it could be worse.
it could be worse. But we are ready for some sunshine, and
Yeah.
we haven't been working a whole lot because we just got back from a trip, and I
Yeah.
think part of our getting sick was just being kind of run down from that
We
deal.
were exhausted. We went to Hawaii, and the flights that leave the island usually go 8:30 p.m., 10:30 p.m., or 11:30 p.m. You can pick from one of those. So you're taking a red eye to get out. And I had the worst headache. I guess I was starting to get sick. So I had this pounding headache. I didn't sleep whatsoever. And so when we got back, I started kind of sleeping during the day and being awake at night.
You're like a baby you got off schedule.
Jay was laying across our bed last night, and I was sitting Indian cross, and we were talking, I don't even know about what, at 1 a.m. this morning.
Yeah,
Just
we're just a little bit off,
Just
and
talking
the
about
trip
life.
the trip was awesome, but
Yeah.
the trip home
no
kind
bueno.
of messed up the trip somewhat for us. We took Benadryl, and what was bad is that
Yeah.
I couldn't go to sleep, but yet I couldn't hold my head up either.
Yeah, the Benadryl made it worse.
Yeah, I think I bounced my head off several things a few times. So
Yeah, I had one really tall man on the right side of me. He slept from before we took off to after we landed. He must have taken something really strong.
yeah, he had the good stuff.
But his legs were completely in my space, and your leg was completely in my space. And then the chair in front of me was all the way back. And so it was not great. I don't want to see another plane for a long time.
Yeah. Me either, but we did have a great time.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that it's rained here for the last several weeks. Not as wet as last year, but wet. And we get to Hawaii, and it
Yeah.
rains the whole time.
The whole time.
We're there, which we had an awesome time,
We don't
even
care.
with the rain. And
Yeah.
we went to another part of the island and got sunshine one day. And
Yeah.
then the rest of the time we did go out on the beach some, but it just wasn't It was just overcast, but there at our hotel, it was pretty well wet the entire time.
Yeah, everyone was fussing because they were wanting some nice weather, like it could be controlled. But our friends, Brian and Michelle, they taught us that you could kind of chase the sun.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. And so I kind of have a favorite part of the island. It's where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's exotic. The vegetation is not something you've ever seen before.
And this is the island of Kauai.
And that's kind of the north side, right, babe?
That's right.
But you can actually drive down the west coast and find the sun, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of raining on the north side and it's sunny on the west side. So we went out with them a few different days, and that was nice.
They showed us some neat spots, but I never thought I would go to Hawaii and have flash flood warnings on the TV. It just never occurred to me that would be the case, but it was this time for sure.
Yeah, for sure. We couldn't even Jay had brought some hiking trail shoes. He never even put them on his body. I was so bummed. We got some really good hikes last time we were there, and we're absolute slugs because of the weather. We tried to get down there, but I'm not even going to say we were hiking because we weren't. We didn't even bring...
We didn't. Not anything like we did before.
We didn't even bring our stuff that day. We had good intentions.
Needless to say, we had a leisurely time.
Yeah.
We did. And so we travel and we get back and we're out of it. Didn't sleep pretty well all that whole night.
Yeah.
And we get the really bright idea to give up Diet Coke and...
No. We have to tell the whole story.
We'll tell it then.
Not the whole story, but I'm just saying you have to go back. And Jay, I think you guys know, but he had this gigantic sweet tea addiction when he and I started dating. And so one day last year, I said, what would it take for you to give up sweet tea? What do you want from me? And he said, your wine. So I gave up wine. And he gave up his sweet tea, but quickly picked up an insane Diet Coke addiction because it's just another vice. We always pick up another vice. And so same thing on this trip. I said, what do you want for your Diet Coke? And of course he said, my wine. You guys, get off me. I'm fine. No, my wine is definitely a problem just because of the calories. There's like 600 calories in a bottle. And so it's something that I hate about myself. I hate that I like it, but I just do. It's very relaxing for me. So I feel like when I put in a good day's work around the house and getting the kids where they need to be and coaching practice, that I can just come home, get with Jay and Netflix and pour a glass of wine, and I get to kind of just relax and chill off to sleep. So that's my thing.
So we do that after no sleep, and we switch to, for me and you're off the Diet Coke too, because you were pretty much a Diet Coke fiend too.
No, I'm more than Jay. I should have told you that before, but I've loved Diet Coke my whole life. I started drinking Dr. Pepper in 4th grade. My best friend, her mom drank it, and so we always drink it. But he wanted me to just give up wine, but I didn't want to drink Diet Coke in front of him. So I said I would cut Diet Coke and wine.
So now we're together. About 4 days in here, 5 with no caffeine, and we come home and no sleep. So it was a brilliant idea.
It was so stupid.
Needless to say, things have been just a little bit cranky around here, and I'm already sick of just straight water, but other than that, I'm good. So we're 5 days in maybe on...
No, we're 7.
7 days in on 21 days, and I'm not sure what happens at the end of the 21 days, but that's our plan for now.
Well, and he had said, do you want to wait for Monday to do it? And I kind of mentally had become ready, and what we should have done was me drop it on Wednesday, but you wait until Monday. We should have staggered it. Because we almost got divorced like 7 times.
That we did. And it was pretty...
Baby, I just cannot even stand you sometimes.
Yeah, no, same here. Needless to say, it's been pretty tough sledding and giving us a lot to talk about. And so part of what we were going to talk about tonight is what... basically what's important in your life and how it gets sabotaged. And it's something we deal with on a regular basis.
Holy cow in
And then
heaven.
you throw in some caffeine and we can really ramp it up. So we came from a really awesome trip that we really didn't have any dust-ups much.
Like we're on our honeymoon.
Yeah.
I mean, what a joke.
Yeah.
You know, and you start thinking this is you start thinking this is real life, and it's so not.
Yeah, and so then we come home tired, no caffeine.
No caffeine, no wine.
Yeah.
No happy wife.
Need to record and got a lot of stuff going
Sickness.
on and tried to play catch up. And so we got to talking about how the things sabotage, what we do. And it just seems like, especially on this podcast, every time we get ready to record, we have some kind of dust up. I mean, definitely a sabotage. And
it's blatant and embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like if I were evil in our lives, I would be embarrassed. But it is winning because it's every 2 weeks. Anytime we were to go and record an episode, it's like a bomb hits our marriage. We come under attack every time we're supposed to record.
Yeah. And this time it was just like there was double the amount of gas on the fire because of the way everything was done. And I don't want to complain about being able to go on a trip to Hawaii and come back, for the after effects. So we just did as I wrote down here earlier, a piss poor job of our planning.
Yeah.
And
well, didn't you think it was a lot your fault?
Yeah, I'm sure it was all my fault. So for us, it's not just this podcast. It's everything that goes on. It's if we're having a party or even our anniversary, birthdays,
date night,
kids coming, and
we're
holidays.
Gonna have a special one that he likes to sabotage is if we're gonna have one night with the kids, like a one special Thursday night with the kids, that's going down in flames. And we let it.
I mean, you're saying he likes to sabotage. You weren't referencing me.
No.
Okay, just checking.
No. I mean,
didn't know someone's fixing to blow up here.
Oh, babe, no. No.
I'm playing. I knew exactly what you meant.
Not Jay at all. So.
But I mean, it is a real thing that as much as we have going on, as much as everybody has going on, that we can, you can just point it out and know that it's coming for us. And the more touchier situation we're in, and the more we have going on, the quicker it gets here and the bigger the explosion seems like all the time.
We can even say it's going to come, but we still can't get through it.
Hit it off,
We can't figure it out.
Yeah.
We have not figured it out yet.
Well, I'm not going to say we hadn't figured none out. I think we've figured some, and I think we've improved. But it seems like when you do figure out it, like the next one just stacks a little more on it, adds a little to it, and makes it.
He ain't playing.
He's not playing for sure.
So I wanted to read that verse that I think about every single time it happens. It just makes me so angry because. I've known this verse for a long time, and it's Ephesians 6:12, and it's, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And I just see this imagery of me and you standing toe to toe, and him flicking a match and throwing it between the two of us, and we just go to throws.
Yeah.
And we know what's happening.
Yeah.
We were in something last night, and the whole time I was cussing him out in my head. I was so mad because it was our date night. And I was like, listen here, I was so frustrated, but we couldn't get through it.
Yeah.
And I know we're gonna, and I know my sister always says sit in another seat. But I feel like we've gone through these reactions, these habits that we formed over, 50 years for you and 40 years for me.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, like I was telling you earlier, it's going to be like a gnashing and a tearing away of our old ways and our old habits and our old selves to step into something that can withstand what we know is not for us.
No. Well, and I'll say, too, that, sitting here tonight looking back on last night, especially that you referenced, I mean, you did what you were supposed to do for your part of that.
I'm going to kiss you full on the mouth.
I'll be ready for that. But,
I really am. That's really nice of you to say.
Well, I mean, you did what you were supposed to do.
Because I thought I did.
Well, I can see your exact response now. I mean, and you did, and I was zero reception to what you were doing.
I'm always the person on here throwing myself under the bus. That means so much to me.
Well, I mean, that's true. Last night, I mean, I did a poor job.
We didn't feel good.
Well, of doing, irregardless of what I felt or whatever, I did a poor job of pulling, fixing that. And
let's press pause.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay.
So, looking back on that, I know that there's things that I could have done, just one thing that I could have done that ended it all, that we would have never even had to gone down that road, but mentally I wasn't in a place that, allowed me to get there.
Yeah, we're both very competitive, and what started this whole episode topic was Bob Goff is one of my favorites. You guys know he's one of my favorites. He wrote Love Does and Everybody Always. And he has you can get those on Audible. His voice is so calming that you guys would love to hear him. Love Does, Everybody Always. And he has a podcast called Dream Big, and it's just wonderful. He has a bunch of different guests on, but he was saying the other day that if we really could become a person that can actually hear from our spouse, instead of getting so defensive and putting the boxing gloves on and pulling on the rope, if we really could learn from them what we're needing to grow in. If Jay has a complaint about me, for me really to see it like, hey, this person that I love more than anyone on the planet has been hurt from me. Let me hear how I hurt them. Let me hear all the details, and let me hear how I can better myself to become a better wife to that person. And you kind of think, well, what if I become a pushover? Or what if I become a doormat? What if, they verbally abuse me? And what we want to express is whenever you drop the rope, that abuse really does stop. If you're coming at me and I humble myself and I drop the rope, you're not adding everything else you needed to say to me. If I'm attacking you and I have 7 points I need to discuss with you, and you genuinely humble yourself and really do apologize and express that you didn't mean anything, and you have love in your eyes and love in your heart, I'm not telling you the other 6. I'm just not. The flame goes out.
No.
And I'm not going to kick this little puppy that's on the ground surrendering.
No.
And so I think we do have to trust each other in that. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean?
It does, and I'm just sitting here thinking while you're saying that too, but from your standpoint, like where you were last night versus where I was at, how do you as that person, lead me down a path to get off whatever I've got going? I understand now tonight what I needed to do on my end, but I couldn't get there. And so, trying to figure out how to lead one another from that point is the hard part for sure.
Well, I don't even know why you're asking me because...
Well, you did a hell of a job last night.
Babe, score 80 for you. I think the score at this point is 80, Jay Norman, and a maybe 1 for me. So for you to ask me is so freaking hilarious, but I really do appreciate it. However, it's not between me and you. It's between you and God and me and God. And what I was trying to plead with you last night is it has to be your trust in the Lord that this is where you're going to lead our marriage. And every single fight we have resembles each other. You can play the tape and I can tell you what's going to happen next.
No.
So thank you for asking me, but I don't know. I have no idea. It just happened last night to where You and I had not been with each other since our vacation. We had put in such an amazing weekend with the kids. You brought yours back to their mama. I brought mine back to their daddy. And we got to come together and go to eat. And Satan said, watch this. And I just didn't want it. Yeah. I was frustrated and I didn't want it. And I felt like the Lord kind of came into my heart and opened my eyes to what was really happening. And I just don't think you were feeling well enough to be open to it.
But the sad part is that you told me when we made that corner there to go eat that you were cranky and you didn't really know why. And in my head, I knew then, just back off and let it go. But still, when it came to the point.
Yeah. Well, and I can divulge why this is one of my huge weaknesses is when we give up wine. When we have our entire weekend with our children, we're with them every second. We're playing ball with them. I'm on the iPad with the kids. I've got the kids up here. We're watching a video. We're with our children at all times. So when we bring them back to their other parent, that's when we kind of celebrate. And so we'll go to dinner and have a big glass of wine. And so we were heading to a dinner where I didn't really get to have my reward.
And I didn't get to have Diet Coke even.
No. And so that alone was just making me pretty cranky because we're very early in this. 21 days. And so it's going to get better. It's just the little first. Like you went to Dairy Queen Sunday morning with the kids. No. That was really hard for you. I went to the tournament on Saturday and we went and got food between games and I couldn't order a big Diet Coke. And I was like, I guess give me a water. I mean, I was like, It changes your whole day. Right. When you're addicted to something, it changes your whole day.
Right. Well, I just know that, that particular one, I was mentally prepared for it and still failed. Mm-hmm. And so, we talked about ways to get through those arguments. We kind of went through and, thinking of everything we could. Yeah. And, number one is one that's always been on this podcast is drop the rope.
Drop the rope. It just, when that voice changes and you're not ready to combat what I'm saying, and I can hear the humility in your voice. I can hear the love in your voice, because the thing that offends me the most is when I can hear the hatred in your voice and the hatred in your eyes, and you're not with me anymore. You're somewhere else. Yeah. It makes me angry that you're not with me because you're my person. So when I can hear that love and I can hear that humility and I can hear that you've dropped the rope, I'd want to drop my end too.
Yeah. Well, and even sitting there during that argument, I knew that. And I knew one thing, I could have done several things to stop it and do that, but instead, just grab that rope and just jerk the hell out of it,
Yeah, one of our other ways that we said is just thinking of others and asking questions. Yeah. So instead of getting really defensive when you say, you did this and it really hurt my feelings, our first inclination is to say, no, I didn't, and I didn't mean that, and what I meant, pretty much is what I did was perfect, you're just mistaken. Yeah. And that's so harmful. And so what we were saying earlier is asking questions, like hearing what you say, like you hurt me when you did this, me saying, I'm really sorry, what else did I do? Did I hurt you in any other ways? Kind of putting the other person first and asking questions about their feelings. And that way you can kind of get out of your own head and out of your own selfishness and concentrate on, the person you love the most on the planet. You can concentrate on their feelings and give them validity for their feelings, because the one thing that sends us 9-0 is you saying that my feelings don't matter or that you don't believe my feelings.
Right. Well, and I think too, and one thing, and we talked about it even last night when we were still kind of into it, is that I think a lot of times I'll say something and in my mind I'm meaning it one way, but you take it completely different. And I think that goes back to asking that question and taking the time to clarify that instead of just blowing up and thinking it, because once you're there, you're not going to take my explanation of what I meant, even if that was the furthest thing from my mind.
Right, and doing anything to just keep talking, like not shutting down or doing silent treatment or just powering down, anything to keeping the conversation going. Bill Hader, he was on Conan O'Brien's podcast. I love Conan O'Brien's podcast. It's called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. And Bill Hader was saying when his anxiety comes on, something that he's learned is to kind of treat it as a monkey that's come to sit on his shoulder instead of panicking, because he deals with major anxiety, which is crazy for an actor that's in the limelight. But he was teaching that instead of panicking when the anxiety comes, talking to it like it is something. And so pretending like that monkey has come to sit on his shoulder that represents the anxiety and being like, hey, fella, like what are you here for? And I think that is synonymous to something that we can do with each other. Like, hey, what are you getting at? Where am I failing you as your wife? I seem to be hurting you this exact way every couple of weeks. What more can you tell me? Because I know that you love me more than life. And I think some of the lies I know that I tell myself is, when Jay gets quiet, I feel like he's plotting in his head where he's going to move to. I mean, I immediately go to, he's leaving, he's going to take the kids, and they're going to move into this apartment. I go from 0 to 60, and that is the furthest from your mind. It's these lies that I tell myself. Right. And I think just being able to talk to the fight and ask the question, what did I do? And being genuine. How did I hurt you, person I love the most? And what can I learn from this? And it sounds bonkers. I mean, we have so far to go to get here, but we're heading there.
Right.
I mean, that's our ultimate goal, is to turn our fights into a healthy discussion where our hearts and our heads are open to each other.
Well, and you always say play the tape.
That's what Jerry was on our podcast. He's one of Jay's best friends, and he always says play the tape, and that has changed my entire life. Yeah. Play the tape, play it all the way through, see where you're going. Is that where you're wanting to be heading?
So if you can take the time to breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
And do that. And I think, too, is being willing to look for a way out of that fight.
Yeah.
I looked last night a little bit, but obviously not hard enough. But, I mean, just really being humble enough to say, hey, I've got to figure a way out of this. It's not worth, fighting for this. And we still have to have those hard discussions that, that lead to the fight, and they still have to be answered. But if you can figure a way out of it and then maybe come back to it later and talk to it at a better time, which we did.
Well, and our fights are very normal. I mean, our fights are what every other blended family has to deal with. And in our case, Jay is one type of parent and I am another type of parent, and we are having to parent in the same exact space at the same exact time in front of 5 children. And it's not easy. Yeah, and it wasn't ever supposed to be easy.
Well, and we've talked about it before that it has improved.
Yeah.
And we've gotten better at it. But the thing is that the dynamics keep changing. There's things that keep changing for us to fight over. And that's the part. You think you have everything solved, but you don't, because life keeps, you just keep getting stuff thrown at you.
It's a moving target, like you say. So when one relationship gets healed, another one arises because they're growing up. We really can relate to all of you that are trying to blend families and know the difficulties, but the power of Christ can come in and, I mean, just heal. Nothing that's going on in your blended family is too big for him. And so we trust him, but sometimes we just get in the way. But I mean, when we realize that 2 people have to parent 2 totally different ways to 5 different children, watching each other being parented differently in the same space at the same time.
And I think over time you come around to more of of a blended way, to handle a situation, but there's still things that trigger it for sure.
Well, and I don't mean that's bad. I mean that's difficult. And so I feel like we really should give each other grace. And I am not stupid to think the way I parent is perfect and you should learn from me. I know that you parent one way and I parent the other, and we've come far enough to realize to stay in our own lane.
Yeah, and they both have their merits for sure.
Yes, but it is just tough when it's in the same space.
And you had mentioned too earlier when we were talking about don't place blame because we're both guilty, and you had a quote that you had found on that, and that's something that we talk about a lot, is just realizing in any argument that we both have fault in it, and sometimes that's not easy to admit. Yeah,
I found a neat quote by Hank Smith, and it says, placing blame in marriage is like saying your side of the boat is sinking. It's ridiculous. We're in the same boat. It's our marriage. And there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to come together and work together. And we have to be blind to think that anything healthy can come when we are in a tug of war.
Yeah. Well, nothing is going to. And we've proved that over and over to each other.
And we will prove it over again next week and the next week.
We will. But, I do think over time, for sure, the lesser stuff doesn't get to us as much.
Yeah.
It's the main trigger points that set us off, and the just the chain of events that...
Well, and not knowing how to say when. Like, we should have gone to the airport, gotten a different flight, but we got lazy and didn't want to go do that. Yeah. So we ended up on a red eye, getting ourselves into a situation where we were addicted to those drinks. Should have never even been in that situation. And I think that's something I really do want to learn this year, is how presenting my body to the Lord as being such a neat form of worship. Like, I am worshiping you by keeping, my body is my temple. And I know we all struggle with addiction or overeating pizza or beer or wine. And if there's something you're wanting to give up and you're looking at it at the angle from, this is how I want to worship you, Lord, is by what I put into my body and how I take care of the body that you've given me, I promise you can trust that you will have added help from him in giving it up. Right. Sometimes it's instant. Jerry was saying, Jerry Searles was on our episode, 21 or 22, about alcohol addiction, and he said, I just can't even explain it. And he didn't even really need to go into AA and struggle with the aftermath of giving it up. When he gave that alcohol up after many, many years, he gave it up. No. And he said, I can't even really explain it besides it being the power of Christ. And so I know Diet Coke seems silly comparing it to alcohol. Wine is not silly because it is the alcohol. Me having half a bottle here and there is not the same as drinking from morning till evening, but in my life, it was ruining some precious things that I hold dear. Knowing that I don't have to do it alone. First, you're doing it right alongside. You're coming alongside me, so I have, my support here on earth, but I have my support from the Lord and coming in and being able to give me strength when I need strength.
Oh, for sure, and just learning from each other on that line, and being humble enough to learn from you. Last night, stepping back away from it and me trying to be that one to do it the next time, and learning how to give those things up like you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough deal, and definitely it takes both of us together to get it done.
Yeah,
I really
think
does.
So. It winds us all the way back around to why we're talking about that, as Bob Goff was saying. Your spouse's view of you and review of you can be your biggest gift. But instead of us seeing it as a gift, we turn it into a fight. Right. And so if we can sit in another seat and look at it from a different angle, and when you come to me upset because I've hurt you, instead of me asking, oh gosh, I hurt you? What did I do? We usually do the no, you're mistaken. I was perfect, and we get in a huge fight. And I think if we really can look at it from that other angle and learn, I don't understand why we can't learn from each other, but we just can't yet. No. We're not there yet.
We're just not there yet. And one thing that we haven't mentioned that has gotten us out of fights is just stopping and praying about what we're doing.
Yeah, we've done that.
That's a fight ender too.
Yeah, we get really stubborn.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do it, but it is a fight ender. And talking about prayer, this is, kind of changing the subject a little bit, but talking about prayer, I'm kind of a run-of-the-mill prayer, cover what I need to cover and do it. You are like your brother.
Yeah, my brother.
I mean, like a story you tell, cover it all, and really good at prayer.
Thanks, V.
And so you said something a while ago in prayer that stuck in my head that I had never heard before, and you said, teach me how to go back for others. And I think that's really what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
And I guess, thinking about that, how do you see that when you say that in prayer, how to go back for others?
When I was in counseling after my divorce, my counselor always talked about how I was in the bottom of a pit, and that our work together was to get me out of that pit. And in my life, I never knew if I could get out of that pit. And so in my life, the whole rest of my life is going to be devoted to going back to get people out of there, because I was in there and I thought I would die in there. He didn't kill me down in there. He let me out of there, gave me the strength and the support to get out of there. And so I promise my whole rest of my life is going to be devoted to going and get a rope, going to get help, going to get other people, and we're going to come back and we're going to get you out of there.
Well, I just never really heard it put like that in prayer, and it really meant something to me, and I think it really puts into context what we're trying to do here. I really do.
I think there's different seasons of our life where we're all down in there at one point or another.
And it may not be a big pit always, but it doesn't take much to get in it. It really doesn't.
No, and sometimes in marriage, you're in one pit and I'm in the other, and we need to help each other out, and we can't.
Yep.
And that's where the grace comes for each other, is you're in one pit and I'm in the other, so we're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, that's the ultimate work together part of it right there.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
That's life. And just having grace for each other and not knowing fully what we're each going through, but having grace for each other and always having the compassion to not bully someone out of thinking they're in a pit, but having the empathy to go and help them out of there.
Yeah.
Validating that they are in the pit that they're saying they're in, and asking, what is the best way for me to help you get out of there?
Yeah, and when you talk about bullying, it's something you've said, since I've known you, bullying you out of your feelings or bullying somebody that they're not in the pit. And when I look back across in my life and think about that, that is a huge part of life that you see. It happens every day. It really is.
It is, because we're very, very uncomfortable when someone comes at us and tells us that we've disappointed them.
Yeah.
It makes us feel like junk. And so the easiest way to stop feeling like junk is to throw the blame onto the other person and say, you're mistaken. I didn't make you feel that way. I'm awesome. Yeah. And that's what you and I do in our fights. I can clearly see it. Yeah. So it's going to take some more maturity. I'm ready to be able to try to fight my way through it with you.
No, for sure. The time frame, and we've said it on here before too, as far as getting through them, getting past them is definitely improved. And but there are a lot of things thrown at us to fight about, and I think figuring out how not to get him started is the hard part.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
It really is.
Yep.
It really is. Well, babe, what are you thinking when we get through this episode? You be ready for me to get you a Diet Coke so I can win that little bet?
Tell them about the lone Diet Coke in our fridge.
Well, I did bring her one the first morning.
Yes.
That was so sweet of me, wasn't it?
But I know, I guess he forgot. He thought I was giving up wine, but I told him, I was like, I can't drink Diet Coke in front of you. What kind of person does that? And I don't like that I'm addicted to Diet Coke. I hate it. So we wake up the first morning from being back from vacation, and he walks in with this gigantic big gulp. Did you take any sips of it?
Absolutely not.
Because I was going to say you would be eliminated.
Absolutely not. I have had none.
So the rules of our competition, we are going 21 days just because we've always heard it takes 21 days to make a habit.
Yep.
I didn't want to say for the rest of our lives we don't drink Diet Coke because that would never hold.
Yeah.
So we said 21 days. At the end of the 21 days, we wanted to have a reward for whoever won, which we are so stubborn, nobody's losing this thing.
Yeah.
However, if I go 21 days without drinking wine or Diet Coke, I get a complete Sunday because that's when Jay doesn't work, from morning till evening, him helping me with an insane honey-do list, including a trip to Home Depot and Lowe's. That's all I want is
so you
to.
can bet I ain't drinking no Diet Coke. Go ahead.
Yeah, but if it doesn't matter if you don't. Like,
oh, okay.
Okay. And so I get an entire honeydew day, which I am so excited about. I would give up food and drink just for this day. If you give up 21 days, you remember?
Mm-mm.
You don't remember?
Mm-mm.
If he goes all 21 days, I have to go the next 21 days without wine and Diet Coke. And the only time I can have a fun drink is if we're out to eat. So no alcohol in our home, which is fine. Whatever.
You ready for that?
Whatever, man. I'm just playing. It'll be fine. Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah. And so we're really excited about that. But we said that at the end of the 21 days, we promised to kind of sit down at the table and kind of have a meeting about it to make it more official about kind of our next steps. That way we don't go directly back to drinking
Well,
it.
for me, I don't drink coffee and I don't drink wine. And so if I don't drink Diet Coke, since I quit tea, that just pretty well leaves me water.
Yeah.
Or water with lemonade in it. And so it's kind of a narrow assortment of things to drink on there.
Yep. I've gone to LaCroix, Topo Chico, bubbly. I like blackberry bubbly with blackberries floating in it. Kind of makes it feel like a fun drink. And then coffee all the time.
Yeah, lots of coffee. So I've switched to completely no caffeine.
That's boring.
And it's been a rough few days here.
I can't tell.
Yeah, you never knew, did you?
Yeah.
Babe, what else you got tonight?
Nothing. I'm so glad we got to record because we have been needing to record this one and just life kept getting in the way. So I'm so glad we got to record and now we started a movie at midnight last night. Our nights and days are completely
we're a little off.
Hawaii was 4 hours behind and then we missed the whole night of sleep flying back. So I think the next day or 2 days, I knew the 2 day would kind of hit. You know how it's not the next day, but it's like 2 days later, that's when it really strikes. Right. When we would go on our basketball away trips, I think there was this one time we flew in at like 1 a.m. and our coach was like, look, we're going to practice in the morning because it ain't even going to hit you. It's going to hit you in 2 days. So in 2 days, I'm going to let you off. So I've always known that was kind of the rule of thumb. Yeah. So 2 days after we got back, I sent the kids to school, or you took them. Yeah. Jay took the kids to school for me, and I slept till 1:20. I hadn't slept till 1:20.
Hey, you slept like 16 or 17 hours that day.
You think it was that long?
Yeah, long time.
From 10 to 1.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I think the last time I'd done that was in college.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever slept that long in my whole life.
So, and that's not ironed itself out. I went to bed at 2:30 this morning. I watched Crazy Stupid Love until 2:30. Kept waking you up.
Yeah.
I was lonely.
She was better at 30 seconds. You wake?
You wake?
Well, I'm trying not to be.
Sleep?
You're doing a hell of a job.
It was the really good parts, and I was making sure you were sleeping.
That's It's early to bed tonight.
We are going to Gore, Oklahoma this week to interview one of our closest friends. So we cannot wait to bring you guys that episode. And then we'll have a bunch of other guests in store for the rest of the season. So we're so excited.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Well, babe, as the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
Let's go watch some Netflix.
All right, I love you.
I love you so much.
We sure appreciate y'all listening today. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can search for us, Moving On Podcast. That's 3 words, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you. With ways you're figuring out how to drop the ropes in each of your own lives, and even ways that you're not, hell, that's just as entertaining to us. See you in a couple of weeks.